Welcome back to Against the Cage, your new MMA home for all the fight previews, fight recaps, and exclusive interviews that your heart desires. My name is Jake Aryeh. I'm here with my co-hosts in studio, Erich Richter, and back home, Mr. Scott Fontana. And guys, we finally know all the title fights that are booked for the rest of the year with the announcement of UFC 323, Merab Dvalishvili taking on Petr Yan and Alexandre Pantoja taking on Joshua Van. So now that we have that information, we can kind of do some speculating as to what we're going to see for the first pay-per-view in January. So guys, I will ask you, and let's throw this to Scott. What would you like to see as far as title fights for the first pay-per-view, or no longer pay-per-view, first premium live event of the Paramount era?
I was waiting for that. I was going to say, sir, there is no pay-per-view in January.
Yeah.
We do have premium numbered events now.
It's like Pavlov's
premium
dog.
numbered events.
I'm still going to call it pay-per-view. So, I'm probably going to do the same thing.
It's, habitually we're going to do it, right? Anyway, so what we're looking at now is obviously we've got the slate between now and December. As you mentioned, those two title fights got added to it. So what we're left with are 5 belts that are not scheduled right now that we know of. That's light heavyweight, which just got defended. It was defended and then passed, of course. We've got middleweight, we got lightweight, we've got featherweight, and we've got women's bantamweight. These are still on the table. You'd have to think it's probably going to be a little too short notice for most of these other fights. Not everybody is Merab Dvalishvili who wants to get that 4th title fight in of the year. I don't think anyone else is turning around quick enough for January. So we're talking about like kind of these 5 options, right? With that in mind, I actually want to see what Erich thinks as far as where do you think they're going to go for 324?
Well, we know that, so the ESPN deal obviously ends at the end of the year. The first card will be Paramount Plus come January. And, just using historical perspectives, when UFC went on to Fox, they even gave out a free title fight. I believe it was Chael Sonnen. Was it Michael Bisping? That was the first one on live TV. I believe it was. They give away some big time fights when cable or when they get a new TV deal. So ESPN had a big time card when they first came to ESPN. And it was the same thing with Fox. I would expect a massive card in January come with when they move on to Paramount Plus, and obviously there might be a couple CBS shows involved as well. For me, if you want to bang this thing out, if you want it to be as big as it could be from the very get, give me Ilia Topuria defending his title against Justin Gaethje, probably, is what I'm guessing. It's not my choice. I would probably want Arman Tsarukyan. But it seems like, based on, rumors, speculation, that it's going to be Ilia Topuria versus Justin Gaethje. And then you could co-main event it if you really wanted to bang this thing out. Give me Amanda Nunes versus Kayla Harrison as a co-main event. That could headline any card. If you give it to me as a co-main event, that Paramount Plus first premium live event would be beyond premium, a word bigger than premium, a higher power, per se. What say you, Scott?
I like the idea of putting that women's title fight on there. I don't know that it's going to happen. Everything seems to look like they're trying to kind of put that on the back burner and delay that until the White House. I have to think that because we haven't heard any rumblings about it, maybe I'm wrong, but it feels like something that's destined for the White House. It's a giant fight with an American champion. We only have one of them right now.
And her name is Kayla Harrison.
Divisional champion. Her name is Kayla Harrison. No offense to Max Holloway. The BMF belt is not a divisional championship. Our proud Hawaiian fellow American. But I like the shot of Ilia Topuria. Dana White noted this week that it's a possibility Ilia Topuria could make his first lightweight title defense on this card that we're talking about, right? I would have to think that if they can get that done, they're going to. I think it makes a lot of sense to put it there. That maybe it's in California. They've often done California in January. I don't know if it's going to be Justin Gaethje. It's probably not going to be Arman Tsarukyan, even if he beats Dan Hooker. I would think the turnaround is a little too quickly. That fight being in Qatar in late November. So I would not be surprised at all if it's Paddy Pimblett.
I agree.
Really?
I agree.
Yeah.
So why do you think it wouldn't be?
I think so.
I'm curious, Erich. Why would you think it wouldn't be?
Oh, yeah.
Well, for me, I mean, Justin Gaethje's been threatening to retire if he doesn't get the fight. Now I know that doesn't have a huge stake. Like I don't know if the UFC like particularly cares if Justin Gaethje retires, but the Paddy Pimblett fight you might be able to get late down the road, build it up a little bit more, and maybe get Paddy a couple wins. It escapes me how many. I think he has 5 wins consecutively. I'd have to look it up, but I think that I just assumed that Gaethje was going to get it. I'll be honest. Like it doesn't seem like they were interested in Arman Tarzukian, so I assumed that Gaethje was going to get the title fight. I think that the Paddy Pimblett or Ilia Topuria fight is box office, right? And I'm here for box office. So sign me
And
up.
I think that would be the thinking, right? I mean, they want to go big. You want to make a giant impact here. I think Paddy Pimblett draws in a lot of eyeballs to an event that's already going to draw a lot of curiosity and that kind of thing. So that's why I'm thinking it might end up being Paddy Pimblett there. You had another question off of this, Eric?
Yeah. Do we have a location for that fight card?
I don't believe they've
believe
announced
so.
anything yet. But like I had said before, I think we often see them go to California in January. This has kind of been like a not a definitive thing, but a running trend. So I would not be surprised if that was in like Inglewood or Anaheim or even Los Angeles proper. You never know. They've not really made any concrete indications yet. We'll probably get those pretty soon. But
Interesting.
I did want to you threw a co-main out there. I'm going to throw another co-main out there because I would be stunned if there were not 2 title fights on this card, even with the potential that one of them would be one of their giant stars, Ilia Topuria, and I think it would be Alexander Volkanovski finally putting that featherweight title that he reclaimed back in April up for grabs. That probably would be Lerone Murphy. He's had that huge elbow knockout of Aaron Pico, and I would think that they don't want to keep Volkanovski on the shelf too much longer. I know he's filming. He's in the Street Fighter movie, so I don't know how much that gets in the way of that. But I mean, that makes a lot of sense. You put those 2 fights on there, some big notable stars. I think that's a really strong card, so I wouldn't be surprised if it looked like that.
That's a fantastic main and co-main event. If they wanted to start off the year with a bang, you got Ilia Topuria and Alex Volkanovski heading the card. You got 155, 145. God, I can't think the last time that's happened.
Yeah, that would be fun.
It'd be
That'd
amazing.
Be fun. I had planned out the entire beginning part of the year for them, and I was like, Holloway Oliveira could be in February, or Volk versus Murphy. Murphy could be in February. You're also gonna have a Hamzat title fight at some point. I believe April. They usually do Middle East. I could be mistaken, but typically I believe.
No, they've often been in Miami for April.
That is.
Oh, you mean for pay-per-view though? In terms of fight night, we did have Izzy in the
That's
Middle
what it
East.
was.
Premium numbered event, sir.
Yes.
Yeah,
yes. Premium.
it's gonna take
numbered event.
forever.
Yeah, it's gonna take. A while.
I know.
It's gonna be tough, but yeah, no, you are right. It was a fight night that was in the Middle East last year, but yeah, who knows what they end up doing? I think that, but Hamzat's got to get a fight up soon, and and we'll talk about the BMF title in a little bit here.
Yes. Alrighty, so I think that's a pretty... Listen, if that happens for January, we'll all be pretty pleased. And you were just talking about Mr. Charles Oliveira du Bronx. Also, let us know, by the way, in the comments down below what you would like to see in January. Let us know your thoughts. But let's talk about du Bronx because he came away with an emphatic win over Mateusz Gamrot, Gamrot, who's a very game opponent. Took this fight on short notice, and Oliveira really came away with flying colors. And Eric, I'll throw this to you. What do you think was most surprising about that dominant performance over Mateusz Gamrot?
So when I jumped on here on the podcast last week, Mateusz Gamrot was an underdog, and as the show was going on, and as the day was progressing, money was flying in on Gamrot. It almost made me think that Charles Oliveira was injured because it had leaked or something. Because by the time that fight rolled around, Gamrot was about minus 165, pretty sizable favorite. Really surprised me to see the line move like that, especially on short notice. Oliveira at home in Brazil, and I know that we're not supposed to say that will influence judges, but I think we'd be foolish not to. So what surprised me actually in the fight was Gamrot's lack of striking power was really evident throughout that entire fight. Oliveira, and he normally doesn't show his opponents too much respect on the feet. Like he's always coming forward and he's throwing elbows. He's looking to get into the clinch. He wants to get up in your chest. You know, he wants to get up in your chin and really and pressure you. Gamrot kind of wilted there, and like he was throwing hooks and crosses. And even they were landing, Oliveira looked totally not worried about them or concerned in any facet. I thought it was a short notice. It's a tough spot, and he's going all the way to Brazil. I think we have to understand that it's a tough loss to get over even still, because it was such a big opportunity. And Scott, I'll kick it over to you, but this was such a big opportunity for Gamrot to see it go that way, that decisively, has got to be disappointing for him.
I mean, yeah, but like, look, as far as the way this fight went, I'm really not very surprised at how it went. Oliveira makes people look very silly when he gets it down into that world. And not that Gamrot doesn't have fantastic grappling. He's quite a grappler. He's not really, though, so much of that wrestling, top-heavy kind of guy who can give problems to Oliveira once it gets down there and really, you know, sort of neutralize that submission game. It showed here because obviously he got it going very well. He gets exactly the type of result that we expect from Charles do Bronx Oliveira. Gamrot's best bet was to keep it standing. I think if he was able to have dragged it much longer and didn't wilt to that pressure you were talking about, that was his path to success. I don't know that I thought that was going to happen, frankly. I think this is exactly the result I expected, especially with all those factors you're talking in, coming down from Brazil on late notice. Charles Oliveira was not going to lose that fight. I'm stunned to hear the way the betting line moved, the way you were talking about. I don't really follow that to the degree that you do. So when I saw you just mentioned that, I was like, get out of here. Yeah. You guys were crazy. A lot of people lost some bad money on I would have talked you out of it, dude.
Well, it's so interesting too, because, you know, I felt like I was the only one on Charles, to be honest. Like by the time Saturday rolled around, I'm looking at all the sharps, and it seemed like all the sharps were on Gamrot, and I was like, what am I missing? Like Gamrot had been knocked down 4 out of 7 fights and only got out of those by getting takedowns. And and I even said it last week, is like, if he gets a takedown, if he, you know, gets clocked and goes for a takedown, he's gonna get front headlock choked. So that was a really, really weird betting line. And again, it was so dramatic that by the time it was minus 150, I was like, okay, am I missing something? And I wasn't. I was right.
There we go. All right. So, well, after Oliveira came in with that win on the mic and on social media as well, he called out Max Holloway for the BMF belt next. I know we were just talking about that. Do you think that he is, Scott, I'll throw this to you. Do you think that Oliveira is the best option for the BMF belt? I mean, presumably it would be at 155 because, you know, that's where Max is hanging out at. What do you think, Scott?
Yeah, I mean, that's the weight class they're both in now. I mean, it would definitely be there. But look, Oliveira, he is so well respected by everybody in the sport, from outside, from within. I think everybody has just the highest regard for him. I think the UFC does as well. He is obviously a fantastically action-packed fighter as well. The guy always wants to deliver, and his style is such that he does. How can you not make that fight next? There's nothing really to do with Oliveira right now except for cool stuff like that until he starts to fight his way back to a point where he kind of can't deny maybe he does need another shot at the belt. So this is the perfect fight. I mean, it's definitely something that I don't know how they're going to book these premium numbered events now, right? We don't know what that's going to look like. Are they going to change the way they've done them? But this seems like one that would totally anchor a card if they even wanted to. You could say, Charles Oliveira, Max Holloway, we're going to put that on CBS. Go have some fun watching that. And I think a lot of people will watch, right?
Yeah, I'd be like, all right, sounds good to me.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, and you bring up the most important part there, Scott, is like, if not this, then what for Charles? Like, what would you want? Like, it's not like he like neither him nor Holloway are really in the thick of the title conversation. They both lost decisively to Ilya. There's a lot of people, and we've already talked about them. There's a lot of other guys out there that we need fresh faces at lightweight, especially with how decisively they both lost. So if not this, then what? And I think that this is perfect. I think that it's clearly a fight that Max Holloway wants, and it's, you know, obviously Oliveira's calling for it. So it's a perfect match because they both want this fight. It's action packed. It's, like you said, anchor card, box office. Everyone's gonna watch this. February, March, April. Take my $8.99 a month.
It's different. It's funny enough because it's box office in a way that, Eric, you're not usually talking about box office. You want these guys to talk trash. You want
Hmm.
them to have all these buildup and that kind of thing. And I don't see that happening with either of these individuals, but you're still going to be amped to see it.
Hmm.
100%.
They're the two of the most action. I mean, if we should do this one day, most exciting fighters to watch, they might be top five, like legitimately. Holloway might have the best knockout in UFC history when he knocked out Gaethje at UFC 300. I know that's a debate for another time, but he might have it. Oliveira, he was up there in submissions. I'm not sure if he still has the title for most submissions in UFC history, but I know he was up there.
Oh, he's got
Yeah.
number one
No,
by a
he's
by
got
a
it.
margin.
He just keeps extending it at this
It's
point. He's going to
unbelievable.
put it almost out of reach.
I know. How is submission plus 250 last week? I digress.
But yeah, let's talk about the guy at the other end of the octagon, Mateus Gamrot. And I don't think that it's a stretch to say that this was probably the biggest fight of his career, and like got a feel for him, falling short under difficult circumstances, right? But in terms of that path to here, it's been a long one, right? Like he hasn't really been given that much slack from the UFC or that much opportunities, or from the other folks at 155 for that matter, in terms of giving
Not
him
even
fights.
kept it the most active lately either.
Yeah. So I have to ask, is this the ceiling for Gamrot? Do we think that he can get back to that title picture that he's clawed his way to get to so far? What do you think, Scott?
I think he can stay in that realm. He's on the lower end of it. That's just where he is. But I as far as actually getting past that and getting like a championship opportunity, I don't see it unless, look, sometimes opportunity from the UFC meets availability from the fighter, and they just need somebody to step in. That would probably be the way you could actually see it happening. I don't know that he's going to ever get to the point where he is the number one contender. He has earned that. We see too many holes. We see him fall short in these big opportunities. The biggest win he has is Arman Sarukian. But there's a ton of people who would tell you very vehemently that he lost that fight. So he just doesn't have the kind of credentials that you're looking for someone who could ascend, especially in this just dog pile of a lightweight division that's been this way for a very long time. I don't see it.
How about you, Eric?
This was a really tough loss, and if I'm Gamrot, I'm probably going home. And like, no excuses, right? Like, you took this fight on short notice. It was also a big opportunity for you. If you look at the opponents that he's fought, he fought Ludovic Klein recently. Again, another short notice fight, but regardless, like, it's kind of like it was a no excuses spot coming into it. Like, this is a big opportunity for you, and you came up short. 18 significant strikes on Charles Oliveira is just not going to cut it. He's going to have to improve. That win against Arman Tarzukian that he had, it looks really good, obviously, because Arman's a really good fighter. But that seems like it's going to be the best win that you'll ever get, and that probably won't ever happen again, most likely. And it's a tough spot. It's a tough reality right now. And, he's trending to the point where he might end up being the 155 gatekeeper. And that's a tough pill to swallow. He's got to go back to the drawing board, and he has to seriously reflect on kind of where his game is at. His striking looked non-competitive against Oliveira, and his grappling is obviously not even top. Like, he's not even top 3 at grappling in the top 10. So of the top 10 fighters, he might be a top half grappler, but not much higher than that. So it's like, where's the path? Like, especially if Islam comes back down, it's like, where's the path? It's a really, really hard picture for him at 155. I mean, Hanato Moicano got a title fight, right? Anything's possible.
Yeah, that was kind of what I was alluding to.
Yeah.
Like, sometimes you're just the right body at the right time, and it just can work out. But short of that, we're not going. I don't see a world, unfortunately, for Mateus Gamrot. And hey, I could be wrong, but I don't see a world that we're in right now where he's just going to get the right wins at the right time, and the demand will be there that he gets this title fight. I mean, we're talking about 3 guys who are vying for a title, rightfully so. So he would, even if he won this fight, he's probably still behind those three. So
Yeah.
it's a very hard division to break through in.
I was shocked to see the way that Oliveira was able to take him down. Like, usually you see Oliveira kind of get him up against, he did to Dustin Poirier, get him up against the cage, take his back. He had a couple rolls against Dustin Poirier that ended up like resulting in takedowns. But this was just straight up wrestling.
I think that's what people were most surprised about.
High crotch takedown and like throw him to the ground immediately into side control, working, taking the back. Like, that was shocking to me. Like the way that he was just easily taken down and the striking was just not good. It was really surprising to see Oliveira kind of have his way like that.
Was that something that
he was
shocked
a man
you?
possessed?
Yeah,
right?
No, he looked.
He was just a man possessed. That actually was a little surprising. I did not account for just how much juice that I think the Brazilian crowd was going to give him. I think he totally fed off of that. I mean, shoot, I hope we get more of him in Brazil because it only makes him fight better.
Mythical
right?
fighter.
We've seen it a couple times. Some, I mean, Conor McGregor back when he fought in Ireland in Dublin, he's like, it would take something special to come out here and beat me in front of my home countrymen. It's like, kind of same thing with Oliveira. They loved him, and obviously, the that Brazilian crowd, and also something that we haven't talked about. That Brazilian crowd was unbelievable. This is why we need
They're so good.
on the road. Fighters fighting at home. This is your bread and butter, UFC. Don't reinvent the wheel. I'm trying to help you. This is what will sell. I was locked in that whole time. There were some really loud moments during that card. Even like the booing too. Like when Almeida got knocked out, like the booing was interesting too. Like I like I like both sides of it. It doesn't have to just be cheers. I just like the crowd reactions.
The Brazilians are good at that one. Like they don't like opponents.
Yvan Mohair, like the Yvan Mohair, like that's never going to get boring. Right?
Yeah.
Like you do that all day. I'm fine with it.
Alrighty, well, Eric, I know you might not have been super pleased with Gamrot's performance, but let's talk about someone that you were very high on last week, and that is Joel Alvarez. He took on Vicente Luque. How pleased were you with his performance? What did you think? Are you as high on him now as you were then?
I was surprised. Because Joel Alvarez, and look, I won't say that I'm any more down on him. I'm not selling my stock on Joel Alvarez Street, Joel Alvarez Boulevard, I still got a house on it. It's appreciating in value, and I'm happy to be an investor. However, I thought that he left a lot on the table in that fight. I thought that Vicente Luque kind of quit at the end of the second round. His coaches kind of said it too, that Vicente Luque was kind of like, hey, you got to dig deep. Like, are you in? Are you out? Like, you got to be there. Etc. So I thought, Joel Alvarez, and I had the numbers here. He had 89 significant strikes in the fight. He had 3 in the third round. Like 86 significant strikes in 2 rounds and 3 in round 3 is just, it's not enough work. And Alvarez has finished all of his other fights. So I'm fine giving him a pass here. However, at 170 pounds, I think that it's a crowded division. So in order to leap up into the top threshold of that division, you have to do some extraordinary stuff. And I thought that was an opportunity where Luque has quit on submissions in the past, and he didn't go forward enough to try and go for the submission. It felt like he was kind of letting him off the hook, letting Luque get to the bell in front of his home countryman. Hey, I get it, right? Like I'm not a fighter for a reason. Like I don't have the heart, right, to do that, right, to try to take him out there. But for Alvarez, I thought it was a missed opportunity for sure.
What'd you think, Scott?
I think Eric at least had a very good point here. Is like, look, sometimes they just don't have it on that given night, right? But he was able to still come away with the victory. So even though it wasn't his best, if you're gonna have a bad night, get the win anyway. As far as the performance goes, though, yes, you'd have liked to see a lot more from him against Vicente Luque, whose best days are behind him. When he's coming up to welterweight, ostensibly he's going to fight a lot more comfortably than when he was sucking himself out at lightweight. You didn't really see that type of performance that you would have loved to see, especially Eric. I get that. I think it's only going to get harder for him, really. He's in the deep end of the pool in a killer welterweight division. So, the next test is only going to get harder. We'll have to see if he can swim in those waters.
Yeah, absolutely. And to wrap up UFC Rio, we're bringing back haymakers. So, guys, if you have any haymakers, let me know. Eric, you got any haymakers to throw out there? Anything you want to get off your chest?
Yep. So when I write my full card picks article, it appears in the paper on Friday. I write it on Thursday, usually before our show. And in it, I had Lucas Almeida by decision. Thought that Almeida Solid grappler, good volume striker. I had thought that he had a good opportunity in this fight. Goes into the ceremonial weigh-ins, and that right hand was blown up like a glove. Like it was so swollen, very clearly compromised. The Brazilian MMA Athletic Commission cleared him to fight, and he did not throw that right hand once. And it reminded me, and there was people caught this at the ceremonial weigh-ins, right? Almeida was a pick'em when I wrote the article. He blew up to plus 300 by Saturday, by the time the fight went off. So Almeida fights with a fractured hand, seemingly, and immediately is out of there. It reminded me of Shailen Nulembeki. You guys will know what fight I'm talking about.
Yeah.
The Derek Minner versus Cheyenne Nulembeki. I'm butchering that name, but
a very infamous fight now.
Very infamous fight now, right?
Nerd and Becky, I
Nerd
think,
and
right?
Becky, yeah, I think you're right.
I believe so.
Regardless, it reminded me of that. I'm not saying that Almeida went in there and threw it. I think he tried. He was in there to collect a paycheck, it seemed like, and I think that that's an issue in MMA. I think that the show up for the paycheck thing, he's obviously compromised. He goes in there and he collapses within a minute, doesn't throw any punches. He's throwing some kicks. That was about it. So, it's disappointing to see that happen in mixed martial arts, and it happens pretty regularly at this point. So, something that I wish we could fix. I mean, the Brazilian Athletic Commission suspended him for 6 months. I expect the UFC to honor that 6-month suspension. And the Brazilian Athletic Commission says if you want that waived, show us an X-ray, a negative X-ray. I would venture to guess that Lucas Almeida.
Oh, they suspended him because he knowingly fought injured?
No, they issue post-fight suspensions based on health for like all fighters. This is just what he got.
Yes, yes, and they
I didn't
gave
know
him a
that.
I mean, not everybody gets a suspension, but like even fighters who have won without even taking damage, you see them sometimes with no contact for a week kind of thing. This is standard.
And sometimes if you get knocked out, like they'll be like when I'm trying to think. There was one knockout recently where I was like, "You're no fighting for like." I think it was Michael Chandler with one of his most recent fights. He was like suspended 6 months. This is a regular thing. This happens in MMA all the time.
I did not know that.
But I don't think I've ever seen like provide an X-ray, a negative X-ray. That I don't think I've seen before. That felt new. So I could be wrong on that. Let me know in the comments if I am wrong.
Yeah, I don't think that's crazy new.
No?
That you can shorten the length of your suspension if you can show that you're healthy. That is kind of typical.
This is presumably for the fighter's safety, so they're not taking, a crazy knockout and then fighting again in 2 weeks.
Right.
Yeah.
That's
Just
the
wanted
goal
to
of
clarify that.
But yeah.
This is news to me. I didn't know that.
Disappointing to say the least.
Not new, sir.
Yeah. Disappointing for Lucas Almeida.
Alrighty, how about you, Scott? What is your haymaker?
Listen, I think we've got to recognize Bia Mesquita is going places, dude. The legendary BJJ competitor. She obliterated Alina Alexeva. Rare unanimous 10-8 round in the first. Got the rear naked in the second to finish it off. World-class skill like her Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu it's going to take you very far in mixed martial arts, and I think it particularly so in a shallow division like women's bantamweight is. Incredible UFC debut, right? She's 34, only 16 months into this MMA journey. I think we could possibly even see her challenge for the title within 2 years. I really would not be stunned at all.
She is super highly thought of for her grappling. It almost like reminds me of like a reverse like Alex Pereira situation where it's like a decorated career outside in one specific skill set.
I look at it, I think an interesting comp for her in some ways, it's not like 1-to-1, is Damian Maia. Obviously an incredible grappler who came over to MMA. He did not have almost like any MMA skill when he came over. I think Bia Mesquita has a lot more of that to begin with. And she's also got, again, that less, there's less women at 135 pounds competing than there are 185 pounds where Damian Maia was coming up back in the day. I think she has a very quick path up the ladder as long as her striking kind of holds up. It looked okay, it looked passable. She didn't really need much of it, and it was really more to get in and get it to the ground. So we don't know what it's going to look like if somebody could stop that, but if they can't stop it, I mean, this is probably what we're seeing a lot.
Yeah.
Alrighty, so great win for BM Mesquita. We'll see what she looks like in her next fight. But guys, let's talk about UFC Vancouver coming up this weekend. We've got Reinier de Ridder versus Brendan Allen. That starts at 7 p.m. Main card starts at 7 p.m. 4 p.m. prelim. So a little bit earlier than we're used to for pay-per-views. We still get to say that for a few more months, and that's all going to be on ESPN Plus and I believe ESPN Unlimited too. I would imagine, right, guys?
Whatever they call them now, it's not on it's not on one of the networks. Just know that.
Thankfully, we don't have to do it.
Check your subscription status.
Thankfully, we're not going to have to do with ESPN Unlimited at all.
Yeah,
I'm out on it, but continue.
I'm excited for Paramount to get started.
Yeah.
It's going to make
TFL's not going to like hearing that, but it is what it is.
Sucks to suck.
Anyway, so this main event, it was initially supposed to be Reinier de Ridder versus Anthony Fluffy Hernandez, but there's a little bit of a sub-narrative here. Eric, would you like to talk a little bit about that in terms of our man Paulo Costa?
Yes, so it was rumored for a little bit that, Fluffy Hernandez was going to be out, and then once it was official, UFC starts looking for a replacement. And Paulo Costa is definitely pretty active on social media.
Yes, he is.
And, for better or worse, he says a lot of stuff. You don't see this very often where a fighter is actively tweeting negotiations as they're happening. So, it honestly felt like at one point Hunter Campbell and him were on the phone and he was just tweeting as it was going along.
Live blogging
it, essentially. I'm sure that the UFC absolutely loved that, especially with the fight having
had to be fans.
Oh, huge fans of everything that Paulo Costa has done for them. Anyways, probably not the best idea because Paulo Costa, he accepts the fight. He says he accepts the fight. He gets everybody excited about, that potential matchup happening. And then he's like, they don't want me to do it at this way. I want to do it this way or at this different time, this different date. And we end up with Brendan Allen instead of Paulo Costa. Paulo Costa says, they wouldn't meet like small demands. I don't even remember what they are, but not that it matters. So I guess the prevailing question is now what happened with the Paulo Costa fight? Like, why didn't it actually happen? And are we happy that Brendan Allen is fighting instead of Paulo Costa? Scott, that's a question for you. Are we happy with this?
I'm okay with it. Look, you always got to remember we're trying to make chicken salad out of the part, not necessarily chicken-ish, but it's a tough situation when you lose a big fight like Reinier de Ridder versus Anthony Hernandez. There were stakes there. There were very clear stakes here. You got to find something that works that you could sell to the people of Vancouver who are going to buy tickets there. All that being said, I think Costa, he brings a lot more juice, right? Secret or not, to this fight here. I don't know that Allen brings the same thing, even though he is ranked higher, at least in the UFC's own rankings. I don't know. I wonder which one of those two opponents would have offered more potential for Reinier de Ridder to, let's say he wins, to get that title shot that we're kind of wondering was he going to be able to get if he beat Anthony Fluffy Hernandez. So I don't know which one is more attractive from his perspective. But, I would think probably fan interest wise, there would have been much more, again, juice.
There's that word again.
Costa against RDR, yeah.
Paulo would have been
agree.
box office.
Yeah, and it's interesting that we were talking. You mentioned how this fight initially outset with Anthony Hernandez being in it. Like we were talking about Nasruddin Imavov like having a really tough chance. Like he needs at least from what I remember of our conversations, like he needs a finish to get to that title shot because these two guys might have a little bit more hype. Like it was really it wasn't a guarantee that Nasruddin
and unfortunate because Israel Adesanya was his knockout win earlier this year, and that's a big win.
Yeah, so
is
ridiculous. But now it's a situation where it's like, do you guys think that Reinier de Ridder, is there a possibility that he gets a title shot off of this? Just that I think that says a lot about Anthony Hernandez and like how much he really played into this title picture and into this fight, that the stakes that were in it. And now it's kind of like not sure really where we are. So Scott, I'll throw it back to you. Do you think that there is a path for RDR to get a title shot with a win over Brendan Allen?
Only a narrow one that I see.
Narrow
Imavov, yeah, it's a narrow path. That's what I see. Imavov, like he obviously didn't do himself a ton of favors, right? In beating Kyle Bahalio, it was, he didn't put a stamp on it. It was a clear win, but there wasn't that like hype that came off of it. No one was being like, "Oh man, I can't wait to see what he can do against Hamzat," and not just because Hamzat is viewed as so dominant. Um, I do think as far as RDR though, it's still harder because he's not going to gain as much shine off of beating Brendan Allen, who's further back on the picture than Imavov did from beating Borralho. Even if it wasn't the most impressive, Borralho had a lot of hype behind him. Imavov stole that part of the hype, at least to some degree. So I think probably if I'm RDR, I need a massive KO. And I don't mean just like, oh, a good KO. I'm talking about something that like really sticks out. Or maybe winning some sort of thriller where we're just like, oh man, look at these fights. He can't believe he was able to win that fight. And he look, don't forget his fight against Robert Whittaker earlier this year. Close decision win, went his way. Not that it was a bad fight, but it wasn't like a barn burner either. So I don't know if he's necessarily going to be able to do enough to change that narrative. And frankly, Chimaev seems like he prefers Imavov too. So I don't. There's probably some degree of champions preference in there that sometimes the UFC will defer to.
What was it that Hamzat said against Gilbert Burns? I don't want to play none of that jujitsu shit. So, Eric, what do you think?
You
can all spell, sir.
You make a good point. You make a good point about champions preference. For me, I agree that Hamzat should want to fight Nasruddin Imavov. I think Reiner de Ridder is a worse matchup for him. So if we're just basing it based on that, my thing about Reiner de Ridder, and I still believe in his opportunity to get a title shot next. I think that it's still quite up in the air. If they had a similar, if Imavov's performance against Borralho and Reiner de Ridder, say Reiner de Ridder has the similar 5-round decision where he kind of 49-46, 48-47, not super dominant, I think that there is a chance that they give it to Reiner de Ridder. My thing about de Ridder that I really like, first of all, he's very awkward, very goofy in the octagon, especially with his striking, a little bit harder to figure out because it's an awkward strategy that he has when he's striking. I like his ability to get in close on the clinch, and I like his grappling style. I think that if he can come in there, get in close on Allen, and start landing elbows, I think that that's his path to doing it, and I think that he will do it this weekend. And I actually lean de Ridder to get the title shot, even though we lose his shine with Brendan Allen instead of Fluffy Hernandez. I think that he still has a very good chance to get this title shot. He's 6'4". He is thick. He's a big guy. He's a big dude. Like Brendan Allen's like 6'1". He's not like you'll look at them next to each other and be like, oh my God, Reiner de Ridder is huge.
RDR is one of the biggest middleweights that we have in MMA. He might be. He's possible. He's the biggest. He cuts a lot of weight and he rehydrates a lot.
Yeah. So
Alex Pereira sort of situation.
Yeah. Like eventually Reiner is not gonna. Eventually Reiner de Ridder is not gonna be able to make this weight. I would presume, but I think that and that's a good point too. Is like, how long is he gonna even be at this division? You might only be able to cut this weight like what 3 or 4 more times. Like, like how many times more really? So I think that. I would actually pick Borralho if I was Hunter Campbell and I was making a decision, and if he gets a finish this weekend, title shot.
Oh, you mean RDR? Sorry, you said Borralho there.
Sorry. Reiner de Ridder. Yeah. If Reiner de Ridder gets a finish this weekend, I don't even care if it's an amazing finish. I think if it's a finish, he gets the title shot.
I do feel like the brass likes him more than Nasruddin, just from history. What
makes you say that?
Just like just because like he had that win over Izzy, and I mean, I guess you have to go with Hamzat once he had that win. Like then it makes sense.
They've been trying to get Hamzat that fight for a long time. There were a lot of factors outside of fighting that kind of held that up.
Yeah, but then they still made Nasruddin fight again, like, and it wasn't even a guaranteed shot. Like, it just seems like they could have given him that, but the UFC, they don't really do that to anyone. They like making people fight for their spot. So maybe
he's got a lot of international appeal in different markets. I think obviously he represents France right now. He's got I believe he was born in Russia, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I think
he might have been a Dagestan, right? I think he's actually Dagestani.
I think you might be right.
But yeah, he's obviously he got ties to different areas and regions, that kind of thing. So he has appeal in different places. If they put Hamzat Chimaev against Nasruddin Imavov in like Abu Dhabi, for example, next year, I mean, that's going to please that market very well.
He was born in Khasavyurt, Russia, which I'm not sure which province that is, but he was born in Russia.
Yes, I'm not sure either.
Um,
I don't know my Russian geography as well as I
not a
ought
big
to.
it's
deal.
so
Maybe I'll learn that
big.
later.
It's so
It's just too
big.
Very
big.
large place. Large place. All right. No more geography. Well, let's get back to fights.
Yeah, let's
guys.
get back to fights. And talking about fights, let's get to the fights to watch. Eric, what is your fight to watch? What do you like?
Drew Dober versus Kyle Prepelic. Drew Dober is a minus 500 favorite in this fight. There are certain fights where you fade Drew Dober. I don't think this is one of them. I think that Drew Dober, I mean, eventually his chin's going to go, but man, his striking is so much fun to watch. He's always down to take one, give two back, and he's swinging for the fences every time he comes in there. So, I mean, in terms of just entertainment value, you're not going to get too much more entertainment than a Drew Dober fight, especially one where Drew Dober is a big favorite, which is relatively rare.
Scott, what about you? What do you got?
I'm going with Marlon Chito Vera against Damon Zahabi. Zahabi, of course, coming off of that victory that essentially retired Jose Aldo. Aldo said, I can't do it. And I don't think it was because of Zahabi. It seemed like he felt that way coming into that fight. But this is a big test for especially Zahabi because he can actually start moving up the ladder even more. We can see how legit he is as a bantamweight potential contender down the road. And Marlon Chito Vera, I mean, he's got to kind of hold on to his spot here. There is opportunity for him to move up potentially. I believe he would represent a fresh opponent for Merab Dvalishvili. So if he's able to string together a couple wins, I mean, he might just by default be a guy that gets one more shot at the belt. So I like this fight. I'm very curious to see who comes out of it.
Yeah, absolutely. That is a really interesting one. And like you said, Eric, that Drew Dober fight, that's going to be a fun one. So with that, let's start wrapping up UFC Vancouver with the event rating. Scott, what are we looking at?
We've got a 40 here. It's a solid rating. I mean,
Is
the
that
main
higher than
event
last week?
is yes, it is. I believe, and it's funny enough too, because the main event it's solid, but not necessarily as much as you would think, because these fighters are ranked 8th and 14th respectively. That's RDR and Allen in those spots from Fight Matrix, where I get all these rankings or ratings, right? To put together these event ratings, co-main Kevin Holland against Mike Malott. It's not really the most attractive for the rating perspective. I'm sure it'll be a fun fight, and everybody loves Mike Malott in Canada. And Kevin Holland comes to fight, right? He comes to fight every time. But overall, the card depth here is just so deep. I mean, we haven't even mentioned, we mentioned like 4 or 5 fights now. We haven't even mentioned Manon Fiorot against Jasmine Jasdavicius in an extremely important women's flyweight fight.
Yeah.
I mean, there are a lot of fights like this that just, there's so much that we could talk about. We're not going to get to everything, but the card is probably better than its rating, I would think. I think it's probably one of the best fight night cards we have this year. That's how I feel.
All right. And to round out UFC Vancouver, Eric, we've got you live for your 3 bets in 3 minutes. Are you ready to go?
Yeah, let's do it. I don't have a clock set up, but I guess we'll have to eyeball it. Let me get my phone.
I'm gonna watch you. I'm gonna watch it right now.
Let me get my phone together. Here we go. All right, yeah, you just let me know. All right, 3 bets in 3 minutes. Last week, 1 and 2 hit Charlie Oliveira inside the distance for a 1.5 unit win. We lose half a unit. Still not great, but we're working on it. Let's start off on the prelims. Bruno Silva versus Haesung Park. Park is a big favorite here. I'm not 100% sure why. Park's been knocked down in 3 of his 6 UFC fights. I think his grappling advantage is a little bit overstated here. Bruno Silva, obviously the shine is worn off on him. He's lost 2 straight. He got knocked down 3 times by Joshua Van. But again, this is Joshua Van. Like, Joshua Van is fighting for the title. Manel Kape, another top-tier contender. Prior to that, though, beat Cody Durden, beat Tyson Nam. He 4 in a row win streak. I think that the grappling advantage that Park has is super overstated. I actually think Silva's going to win striking exchanges. I will take Bruno Silva at a big number. Plus 500 by decision. Give me Bruno Silva. We go to the co-main event. Canadian fighter, as you just said, Mike Malott, fighting Kevin Holland. I'm concerned about, and Kevin Holland at 170 pounds, he is 6'3", long, tan and handsome. He is a big dude at 170 pounds. He definitely has a striking advantage here. Now, where I think that this gets a little squirrely for him actually is on the ground. I think that Holland settles for bottom position too much. I agree that he's a good submission artist, but if you look at Mike Malott, he would be undefeated in the UFC if he didn't blow it against Neil Magny in the 3rd round, a fight that he was dominating, had 10-8 rounds in. So Mike Malott, I think, is actually looked down at because of that Neil Magny kind of coming apart there. I don't care. Give me Mike Malott on the money line, minus 125 against Kevin Holland, who just got knocked out in July by Daniel Rodriguez. We go to the main event. Reiner de Ritter versus Brendan Allen. Just talked about it. DeRitter 21-2, Allen 25-7. DeRitter 6'4", 78-inch reach. Allen 6'2", 75-inch reach. I just don't love this fight for Allen. I think that Ryder DeRitter has him covered everywhere. I think Allen's best path to victory here is to out-cardio DeRitter. But I don't even really like that as an option. Like maybe DeRitter has bad cardio. We haven't really seen it at the UFC level. I think DeRitter is way bigger, has way better grappling, and I think that his striking is super underrated, especially the clinch work, which I discussed before. I think that Reiner DeRitter is able to get into the clinch, get some elbows off. That knee to the body is by far his most dangerous strike. We saw Bo Nickel kind of crumble to that. I think that it's a similar outcome here. I'll take Reiner DeRitter in the fight to start round 2 at plus 100. Got to get that favorite down from minus 225, so that's how I'll do it. Those are 3 bets in 3 minutes. How'd I do?
That was fantastic, and you got the lights are literally on you, so like pretty solid. Alrighty, so that wraps up UFC Vancouver. Definitely looking forward to all of those fights. And Scott, I'll throw it over to you for our quick hits in MMA news. What do we got?
We got a lot of quick hits, dude. And we're going to start with something that came straight from the Post. We broke some news this week. Fight news for UFC 322. Sean Brady is taking on Michael Morales in a key welterweight matchup. That's going to be on the main card at Madison Square Garden. We also have unfortunate news for that card. We lost a fight that we were just talking about last week. Malcolm Wellmaker, he needs a new opponent. Serhi City has withdrawn from that fight, so we'll see what comes of that. I hope Wellmaker stays on it personally. He's a fun fighter to watch. A new addition to the roster coming up, so with a little bit of juice behind him as well.
There's that
UFC
word again.
Has signed juice. Yeah, exactly. Saeed Izga Kamayev, I believe. Oh, I'm butchering that. I apologize, but we'll see. But hey, look, he's a standout from Khabib Nurmagomedov's gym. He's 22-2, but he hasn't fought in MMA in 3 years. So we'll see what he looks like when he takes on this reported matchup from MMA Junkie against Nicholas Dalby. That's going to be on the November 22nd card in Qatar. Looking a little closer to where we're at right now, 321, the headliner of this one, Tom Aspinall. No earth-shaking news here, but he said something interesting on a podcast called the Shikst and Gigs, which I understand the X is an I, podcast. He would rather vacate the heavyweight title that he holds rather than fight friend and training partner Ante Dalia. That's something to watch out for in the next year or two, depending on if that scenario kind of plays out. Right? Yeah, exactly. Maybe it won't happen. Right? We'll see. But it was curious to hear that. Right? Oh, yeah. Unfortunate, more BJ Penn news. Which he's unfortunately been featured a lot in this segment, and not for a good reason. A judge has ordered him to undergo a mental health evaluation amid his various arrests this year to see if he's fit to move forward with those multiple criminal cases against him in his native Hawaii. So that's, again, the latest development with BJ Penn. Better news for a fighter, hopefully. In this case, it is Jorge Masvidal. He won a $5 million judgment against Fanmio for non-payment of after his boxing match against Nate Diaz last year. So you can only hope that he gets the money he is owed. And then lastly, this is technically it's MMA news. They're former MMA fighters. We've seen them fight twice before. This time it's going to be in boxing. Anderson Silva, 50 years old now, fighting 41-year-old Chris Weidman in boxing on November 14th. It's on the undercard of that Jake Paul versus Gervonta Davis event in Miami. ESPN reported that fight. It's scheduled for 6 rounds. And there's your quick hits.
It's good that...
Something tells me that that's not the first time a 50-year-old has fought on a Jake Paul card.
That is
honestly,
true.
He's a little young to fight Jake Paul. I know they fought already, but probably in 10 years or so, Spider's going to be ready for that rematch.
I was going to say, I'm just glad that these two are fighting in boxing because there's no leg kicks in boxing.
There will be no horrific leg kick finishes this time, fortunately.
Exactly. Alrighty. And with that, let's move on to the final round. And I'm actually going to preface with the name of the fight that we watched this time because I don't do that a lot. Yeah.
Look at that.
Michael Chandler versus Eddie Alvarez. They fought twice, right? This is the first one?
Mm-hmm. This is the first one, from 2011, Bellator 58.
Yes. And I got to tell you, Scott, I think this is top 3 This is top 3 for me in terms of fight assignments.
Ever?
It was in terms of
in terms of
not fights ever. In terms of fight assignments, I mean, it was a freaking crazy fight. Like back and forth. It was what Michael Chandler had. The first round, he almost knocks out Eddie, and then Eddie kind of has
Eddie
a bit
looked dead. He looked dead.
You could have stopped that
I can't believe
fight.
he survived that.
You know
You
what
coulda
it
stopped
reminded
that.
me of? Do you remember when who was it that knocked out Brian Ortega and then punched him again and it woke him up while he was standing up?
Diego Lopez.
Diego Lopez punched Brian Ortega, and Ortega went out, and then Lopez punched him again and it woke him up. It reminded me of that.
And then Eddie comes back, and I thought that Eddie was going to win that fight because I had like I knew about this fight, like I knew that they had fought, and I knew that
You didn't know the result.
I didn't know the result, but like a little inkling in my head was like at the start, it was like I think Eddie wins this fight, but obviously I'm not gonna check. I'm gonna watch to see what happens. So when Eddie started coming back, I was like, okay, yeah, that tracks. And then Mike pulls it out of the fire, as Leon's coach would say, right?
Yeah. One thing that I thought was funny was I believe it was the second round where the commentators were saying that Eddie Alvarez was like, this kid, he doesn't know what to do after the first round. He'll wilt under pressure. And it was funny because, Michael Chandler kind of does that. He doesn't really know how to contain him. He said he doesn't know how to contain himself, is what he said. And it's like, yeah, that range true. It was kind of the Michael Chandler experience if it worked out every time. If it worked.
Well,
out.
he was younger in the sport. He hadn't suffered all the damage that he took in fights like this over the years.
Thing. He still does.
Look at the haircut.
Stuff.
I mean, he was a young man.
Yeah.
Yes.
A lot better looking with the hair.
No, but it was such a good fight. Like, this is one of those where it's like, it's not only is it just like a surprising result, where it's like a plot twist, I guess you could call it, right? Or like a comeback victory, but the entire time it was like entertaining through that as well. So best of both worlds. Loved it.
Probably the best banter, almost definitely the best Bellator fight in history. It's definitely one of the best non-UFC fights of the last 15 years. I think that's probably fair to say.
And both guys went on to immediately have success in the UFC. Eddie Alvarez was the champ, in the UFC. So like he immediately was super, super legit.
Yeah, and maybe Michael Chandler hasn't, gotten the UFC belt, but like he's doing all right. I would say.
He's having a very good career. He's not in it for a long time. He's in it for a good time, and he seems like he's having mostly a good time when he's not waiting for Conor.
Yeah, there we go. Alrighty. Well, Scott, what is our next homework assignment? What do we got?
We mentioned him last week, and I want to bring him back because there's so many good fights for this guy. Miguel Angel Torres against Takeya Mizugaki, 2009 WEC 40 title fight. Torres, he's making his third bantamweight title defense in this one. He'd won 16 fights in a row coming in, so his record was 36-1, guys. This was a different era of bantamweight. We had it was fractured. It wasn't like today. It wasn't as developed. It was still gaining steam as a weight class. But he was very much the lord over 135 pounds. They bring in, for this fight, Takeya Mizugaki. It was his WEC debut. He was 11-2-2. He had yet to fight outside of his native Japan, but he was considered a top 10 guy at 135 pounds on the world stage. So very interesting matchup. Totally legit for the era's bantamweight title fight. And I'm very curious what you guys will think of this fight.
All right, looking forward to it. And
have you not seen it either, Eric?
No, I have not. And you've been saying that Miguel Torres is that dude. And the only Miguel Torres fight that I watched was when we had the fight assignment with Mighty Mouse, which was also a very competitive fight.
You guys are going to become fans very quickly.
All righty, there we go.
Take my money.
To wrap up our history of MMA and this episode of Against the Cage, Scott, what do we got for this week in MMA?
So we're looking back at October 15, 2016. There was a fight card scheduled for the Philippines. It was the last time the UFC was supposed to be there. And notice I'm using specific language that says supposed to, and they were scheduled for, because it didn't happen. There was a fight that was supposed to be Ricardo Lamas against BJ Penn at featherweight that was going to anchor that one. Penn pulls out 11 days before. The event is scrapped. UFC has not gone back to the nation since. And so at this point, they've only had one card in the Philippines. That was the year before this one. So
TKO Boxing's got to sign Manny Pacquiao, like I said, and then do a little crossover card.
Oh, boy.
Don't see it, sir, but you never know.
Was this one a pay-per-view or was it a fight?
No, this is a fight.
Okay.
Just a fight.
So John Jones is still the only pay-per-view that has been scrapped from besides like COVID?
No, there was another pay-per-view that I more or less got moved. It was supposed to be in Rio. It was a Jose Aldo against Chad Mendes card, if I'm not mistaken. And that got moved. I think it was UFC 176. You'd have to check me, but
UFC
it got scrapped. But they ended up still doing it. So there is a UFC 151 and a UFC 176 that are official and didn't happen.
Okay. All right.
176 is when McGregor fought Poirier the first time.
Okay, well, it was one of those numbers somewhere in that range. I have to double check.
I remember when
I can do it before we shut down, then I don't think we're getting it.
I remember John Jones was supposed to fight in Vegas, and then they moved it to California because of a.
That was 232. I believe.
There you go.
Yeah.
Or no, was it that reason?
That was when he fought Gustafsson. Yeah.
Oh yeah, you're right.
That was 232.
Yeah,
I
moved it to
remember that
Anaheim.
one. That was like right when I
interesting.
started turning my brain on for UFC and like recording this information.
Oh, there we
Yeah.
go.
Alrighty. Well,
What number did I just? Hang on. What number did I just say?
176.
It is 176.
There
I
we
am
go.
right,
Look
sir.
at us.
Did
Oh!
McGregor fight Poirier on that card?
No, it didn't happen.
Okay.
That's what I'm telling you.
Alright,
176 didn't happen.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
Fair
wow.
enough.
Alright, there you go.
I looked it up. I just Googled it.
Just moved on to 177.
I believe that was the case. Yeah.
Okay.
Wow.
Alrighty. Well, you learn
Interesting.
something new every day. That's what we try and do on
man's got
this
a
show.
photographic
For
memory.
you
Let's
back
go.
home watching, we hope you enjoyed. Eric, thank you for joining me. Scott, as always, boom. There we go. Alrighty. We will see you guys next week.